in deference to the suggestion given by Hasmukh Bhai, Brother Narad and dear friend Shraddhalu, that we should take up the story of Savitri and Satyavan, because probably quite a few may not be conversant with the story itself. So we have decided to slightly make a departure from the topics which are listed. Because I don't know whether one session is enough. Maybe we'll need 2 sessions. At most, it may spill over to the third one. Because in a way it's a very good suggestion. Because not only it's about the story, it will cover the whole of Savitri as we go through. Because story will be not just as the story is retold, that is only a part of it. But then as the story as Aurobindo has revealed to us. So it's a very beautiful suggestion, quite an inspired one. Now in India we have a tradition of Savitri Vrat. In different parts of the country it is kept under different names. And usually it is in May or June on the dark night of the moon. It's Amavasya as it is called. So the ladies, married ladies, they perform this vrat, this fasting. They spend the day in fasting and prayers, while children spend the day eating and awaiting for the good sweets which will follow. And then after the fasting is over, depending on the region, 1 day, 3 days. In India there are some festivals which are connected directly to the sun. So they will go and they'll put a thread around a banyan tree. And then in the evening, everybody sits together and there is a puja where they invoke the spirit of Savitri and the story is told. And at the end of the story, of course, there is a very beautiful refrain. And why this is important is because one can see the link. At the end of it, it is told that just as it happened in the life of Savitri, so may it happen in everybody's life. This looks very commonplace, but there is a very deep truth in it, as we shall explore further. So like any other Indian, I have grown up with this story from childhood. My ears to the story and my eyes to the sweetmeat, which is waiting at the end of the story. The story is very simple. And as we have said, it has been told in the one Parv, the book of the forest in Mahabharata, when Yudhishthir is distraught by all that is happening in his life. Nothing seems to work. He has been robbed of his kingdom, cheated in the game of dice. Draupadi has been humiliated and they are abandoned to the forest for no wrongdoing of theirs. Of course, it was wrong of Yudhishthir to start with engaged in this game. But other than that, so they are banished into the forest for 12 plus 1 year. And during that phase, he seeks peace and solace, they all go to different sages, rishis, and they would tell them stories. So there are a number of stories intertwined in the Mahabharata. It's also true in Ramayana. This was the way. So he asks sage Markandeya, who incidentally is himself one of the immortal seers. It is said that at the young age of 12, when death comes to him, he says that, look, I am in the shelter of Lord Shiva. He is my refuge. So if thou wouldst take me, you must ask him. And Shiva appears and says, no, he is my child. You have no right over him. So Markandeya is one of the immortals. So he narrates this story saying that Yudhishthir, we understand the pain and anguish of Draupadi. But don't become so helpless against fate. This is not exactly how it's narrated. Let me put it very clearly. It is in reference to a question, of course, that has anyone suffered like Draupadi and has been so good as her? So, Rishi says that no, there have been instances and you should not feel so helpless against fate. You must bounce back and conquer it. So who has done it? Savitri in days of old has done it. Then he narrates the story. The story starts with, now see, everything is important because we'll see how Savitri, the legend, narrates to Savitri, the book. So here in the traditional story, it starts with King Aswapati. There once was a King Aswapati who was great ascetic. He was performing various penances, and though he was a king, he was an ascetic. And he's described beautifully in the Upanishads as really a knower of Brahman. Knowers of Brahman, but knowing one dimension of it would go to him, seeking for a still greater truth. And they have wonderful story. There is a whole story dedicated to, King Aswapati, who ushers these yogis into his palace and reveals to them the still greater reality of the Brahman active in the world. We'll not go into that. That's not part of this story. So he is, then as it comes of age, he realizes that, he has to have a progeny, because the lineage must continue. It's not just about a physical lineage as we may understand. It's about a work that these seers and kings were doing, and it must continue. Yesterday we were talking about the continuity of the work. So it's so true that, the work must continue. So somebody has to continue the work. It's not enough that I have done a good job and that's the end of the story. So for continuity of the work, he prays to the sun god and performs tapasya to have a son who can continue the work. But instead of a son, the sun god appears and he says, you will have a daughter. And she will be your progeny, and he is very happy. So he is very happy, and Savitri comes, she is born, she is as a boon of the son himself, and she has all the qualities of her father. She is very devotional, ascetic in her own temperament, nature, and naturally inclined towards divinity. Then as she grows up, because of her intense stage, she is not an ordinary woman, and no man is daring to offer his hand or ask her hand. So what to do? So the king says, okay, I think nobody will step forward, you go and choose. See how liberal that thought is. On one side, having a daughter is regarded as something wonderful, and daughter is said, you go and choose. Whom do you want to marry? So she goes and meets various people, but she's not happy. Till she finally goes into the forest, and in the forest she sees Satyavan and instantly falls in love. We read these beautiful passages, and she decides within that, he is the husband whom I must marry. And they decide together that yes, but Satyavan is an exiled prince. His father, Dyumatsena, has been thrown out of the kingdom by a coup. So it was happening from those days also, even in those, days of Satyug. So he has been exiled and he has been blinded. He has become blind. So he is into the forest living quietly with his wife and this son, Satyavan. And Satyavan has grown up in the woods. He is a prince but exiled. And then they decide to get married, and she comes back, hastening back to the palace and saying, I have found my choice. And as destiny would have it, Narada, the demigod who is messenger between earthly human beings and the seat of Lord Vishnu, he is there. So they ask him that, please tell us what is the fate. And he says, Satyavan is wonderful. I can't deny the choice he has made. He's really a gem. We'll see how Aurobindo has been actually faithful to the story in every possible way. But there's something he does, and it's not just tweaking the story, but something else. We'll see that. So he says, he's a jewel upon earth. These are the words Aurobindo also uses when Narada describes Satyavan. He says there's only one problem. It's a bad choice only because he is going to die after 1 year. So King Aswapati, and more so the queen, Malavi, she says, please, we respect and honor your choice, but this death is making it fruitless, so you go back and choose. Savitri is determined, even in the original story. She's shown as a resolute, steadfast princess. She says, no, if this is my fate, I'll take the challenge of fate, but I cannot be untruthful to my own heart. So I'll marry Satyavan. Okay? Like today, so days in the hoary past, parents were helpless against the choice of their children. Nothing new. So, it's just so that we don't feel bad that, it's Kali Yuga. Even in Satyug, we had the same issues. So they say, okay, fine, they get married, and, as the days are coming. Now, Savitri doesn't reveal it to her in-laws. She goes to the forest. She doesn't tell them that, he's going to die after 1 year. This is exactly how Aurobindo describes even in this book, Savitri. She doesn't reveal, and this is not ordinary. It shows the greatness of the woman that, she knows what is going to happen. She doesn't do his life insurance. He doesn't contact all the, put all the doctors on a mobile list. She just waits. In her own way, she has decided something she's going to do. So 3 days before the death, she engages in a very severe tapasya, which is what, is celebrated in tradition as Vat Savitri or Savitri Brata. So as she does tapasya, the king says, why are you doing this very difficult penance? He says, no, don't worry, father. To her father-in-law, I want to engage. She doesn't say that, it's for your own son. So finally he gives her the permission and she engages in tapasya. And then on the last day, when she knows this is the day he must die, exactly as Aurobindo describes here, she says that, well, today can I go out with my husband? Now, she has never asked for anything throughout. It's there in the original story showing her nature, innate nature. To give was her nature, not to ask. All this Aurobindo describes beautifully in Savitri. When he describes Savitri's inner beings, he says a wide self-giving was her native act. This is how she is. A magnanimity as of earth or the sky. And everybody could come there and find, cared for and loved for. So naturally a father-in-law says, of course child, you go with him. So she goes and Satyavan also doesn't know and she is preparing for the moment and suddenly, while he is cutting the wood, he suddenly feels pain and falls in her lap, exactly as it is described in the story. And then death appears. Now when death appears, he sees that Savitri is not letting go. So he says that, you have to release him. Because she is not an ordinary, she is woman, she has done her own tapasya. So she says, no, I'll walk with you. I can't leave my husband. So death says, you have to leave him because I am the guardian of the law. That's how she addresses him first, and death is the keeper of the law. But what law, we'll talk about it just a little later. So she says that, well, you are the keeper of the law, so who else but you would better understand that I am only following my dharma. As a lady, I have promised that wherever he goes, I'll go hand in hand. So if you are the guardian of the law, how can you tell me not to follow my law? You can follow your law, I am following my law. So he says, okay, he has no choice. So if you can, come with me. So see, by her inner tapasya, she walks with him because he is following the law. And after some time says, okay, now it's okay, you have done enough. Go back because now I am entering a domain where you cannot come. And she says, it's, that's what the law is. Nobody can enter this domain. She says, all right, but do you recognize that I have walked with you so many steps? Yes, so what? So you are my friend. All right. Now again, it's a very deeply symbolic thing. So he says, you are my friend? Okay. So what do you want? He says, as a friend, you must give me something. You are telling me to return back from your house. And as a friend, you don't send somebody just like that. He says, okay, ask what you want. You have walked with me for, 3 steps or whatever, and so 3 boons I'll grant you. So first he says, give my father-in-law sight and the kingdom. So, all right, granted. He says, give my father, Aswapati, 100 children. Now, granted. Now this is interesting because her father is originally doing the tapasya so that his own tapas can extend through these progeny and far and wide. So asking is a very logical thing. Says, all right, fair enough, because as far as your father-in-law is concerned, injustice has been done to him. As a guardian of dharma, I must keep it. So he is granted, and your father will have 100 progenies. It's a good thing you have asked. What else? So third boons, he says, I want Satyavan. He says that you cannot. No, sorry. Before that, she says, well, I want 100 children for myself. She says, granted. Now when she says granted, he says, look, now, you can't tell me to go away from here. Why not? I have granted you the 3 boons. She says, look, you are the keeper of dharma. All right? Yes, I am the keeper of the dharma. So you are not doing your dharma well. What do you mean? You have granted me 100 children. How do I have 100 children without Satyavan? You want me to follow a dharma? Now he is caught in a trap. So he says, well, in fact, she says, you are not, when he says, no, you go back, you have 100 children somehow, he says, no. Now she reminds him that you are not saying something which is of proper conduct. She chastises him that, you are not saying doing something right. So he has no choice. So ultimately, only a lady can say this, that you're not doing something right to a man. So ultimately, death says, okay, what do I do? Then finally he says, okay, you take Satyavan, I am making an exception for you. So she says Satyavan. In fact, this is slightly more, he says, okay, fine. I take away this boon of 100 children, ask another boon in lieu of this. But he forgets to tell her, or, as the story goes, that except for the life of Satyavan. So she catches on to that. He says, another boon? He says, yes. I not 100 children. I made a mistake. So he says, okay, then I want Satyavan. You didn't put that clause this time that, accept Satyavan's life. So, he is very amazed with her wisdom. She is shown as somebody who is both courageous as well as wise, a tapaswini, and he grants Satyavan back. Now all this is there in the story of Savitri. Aurobindo very faithfully follows it. Except that there are many missing links, like what is the tapasya that Aswapati engages in? It's not spoken of in Mahabharata legend. So that Aurobindo elaborates through many cantos, running from book 1, canto 3, right through book 2, right through book 3, till he gets the boon. And not just the son, but the power who is defended. The son defends that power, holds it within himself. So he asks for that boon from the deity, that, I need a boon for a certain work I am doing, for changing this earth. So this is one part of the story which has not been mentioned in Mahabharata. Naturally the time was not ripe, and so this is revealed here. Second is about the Savitri, what kind of a tapasya she has done. Because she has to become armed to conquer death. She obviously was not fasting for 3 days and tying a knot and suddenly, Satyavan came alive. If it was that simple. Though people believe it's that simple, that's why in India divorces are not so common, because it's the woman who is the power and praying for the man. If she goes away, then you know what is going to befall man. So men recognize it. So they say whatever it is, however problem maybe, you please continue this Savitri Vrat and all kinds of Vrat. So she engages in a tapasya. Now that tapasya again Aurobindo elaborates in the book of yoga. In a running through 6 or 7 cantos, where the entire the tapasya or the yoga that Savitri has undertaken to master and conquer death. So this is the second part. So this book has 3 parts. The first part is primarily the yoga of Aswapati, and it ends with Aswapati seeking the boon. Then there is a second part. Second part is about Savitri, her growth, and right up to yoga, she has now armed herself to confront death. And then there is the third part where Aurobindo again is faithful to the story up to a point where Savitri asks the boons. But unlike the traditional story of Savitri, the book does not end there. And the debate between love and death, which is there in the original story, is lifted to its highest pinnacles. Now, why Aurobindo does this modification, these little changes? Not in the story itself, but he fills many things and there is something else which comes. A lot of scholars have written about it, so let me not go into all kinds of details. But very simply, to my own insight, Aurobindo himself is Aswapati, that we all know, but Aswapati had achieved this boon primarily for himself, as an individual. Savitri brings back Satyavan, but it's an individual victory as a possibility to be generalized in the race in times to come. It is only Satyavan that she brings back. So very often people ask that, okay, then where is Satyavan? Because if he has escaped from the clutches of death, then where is he? And we must raise these questions. It's good to raise these questions. So where is Satyavan? Well, what he escapes, it's not the same as realizing physical immortality. What he escapes is the law of death. Now, what really is the law of death? If we see through the debate between love and death, it is that anything that takes place under my domain, high things, beautiful things, divine things, ultimately they will fade away. That's why he says that, look, you speak of love, it's wonderful, but love does not thrive on earthly soil. You can go to heaven and have heavenly love. Beauty, it fades away. Love turns into hate. Life, we know what happens to life, it's maimed progressively. Bliss, momentarily one may feel a great joy. Bliss is a very big term, but very soon it changes into suffering and pain. The same thing which gives us joy paradoxically becomes the cause of suffering and pain. So this is the law of death, that all these high and beautiful things would not remain here permanently. And there is a reason for it. We shall discover it by and by if time permits. So he's the keeper of the law in the dark domains. He's not the original guardian of the law. If you go into the Vedas, the original guardian of the law is the sun god. And Yama is only his chaya. He is like a darkened deity. Just as we read in the beginning, that in the beginning how in the origin that power falls and becomes its opposite. So he is the guardian of the law in the triple worlds of mind, life and body. He is not the ultimate truth, not the truth that should be the law of evolution, of humanity, of everything upon earth. But there is a reason why this Yama has been put forth as the guardian of the law of the triple worlds. But here we see that Savitri is not content just with the return of Satyavan. Why? Because the great endeavor of Aswapati was surely not just to get a daughter, and the great tapasya of Savitri was not just for one Satyavan. In that age, she ensured that Satyavan can escape the law of death, which means things can become permanent here. If not the body, love can become permanent. Beauty can become permanent. The joy can become permanent. Peace can be established. It's a great victory. It's not an ordinary achievement. So, death does not have a hold. Whatever it tries, at the end it will take away the body. But all this consciousness that we have organized within us can continue and come back without any disintegration. Otherwise, ordinarily what happens, that few moments and then it tends to go into some layer, and eventually when we come back, there is a certain degree of swoon of inconscience, and it takes long time to recover. So what Savitri achieved was nothing small. It also was a great victory. But then, now the time comes for the victory to be realized in the mass of mankind. It's not enough that one Satyavan or a few Satyavan are saved. So we see Aswapati once again coming back as Aurobindo and undertaking this endeavor for a still greater goal, but along the same lines. It's like an unfulfilled work, a work which has been left unfulfilled. Here comes the passage which indicates it. There are several passages and we'll read through the story. When he is face to face with the Divine Mother and he asks for the boon. So, she says, Aswapati, and we see a beautiful connection with the original story here. And very cryptic lines, which otherwise one passes unnoticed. So she tells Aswapati, page 340, traveler upon the bare eternal heights. Last line on the page 340. Traveler upon the bare eternal heights. Tread still the difficult and dateless path, joining the cycles with its austere curve, measured for man by the initiate gods. So he says that, yes, I know, my child, you have done tapasya in many forms, as Rishi Agastya has, in many ways, he has been doing this tapasya. So he says, continue this endeavor, maybe for few more lives. Then when Aurobindo was asked that, about the supramental, he says, I have come for tapasya, not for fulfillment. He had prophesied it. That somebody else, mother will bring it down to earth. I have not come for the siddhi, I have come for the sadhana. That siddhi, of course, is mentioning about the final supramental transformation. He spoke about that. And he tells the mother, you have to fulfill the yoga of transformation. Because it's not easy. He has been told this, that look, even very humorously when somebody said, I believe, sir, that supermind is going to descend in the playground. He says, in that case, I will be the one who will not receive it. You mean? I mean, of course, he received the supermind individually. It was said in half jest, but something that Aurobindo says even in half jest has a very profound truth behind it. So he is told that, look, I know what you are going to ask. And then the voice of the vision, wonderful, my light shall be in thee, my strength, thy force. I am there with you. You are doing this tapasya because I have become you. You are none else but myself. Let not the impatient titan drive thy heart. And now comes this wonderful line. Ask not the imperfect fruit, the partial prize. Only one boon to greaten thy spirit demand. Only one joy to raise thy kind desire. Now you see, this is what Aswapati in the original story has asked. To raise thy kind. He wants an offspring, a progeny. So here also, he is being told that you can greaten your spirit by this tapasya. You can ask, valid. You can ask for your own kind to develop and prosper along these lines. But what he is being told not to ask not the imperfect fruit, the partial prize. It's not yet ready. Earth is not ready. So in the beginning itself, a few lines behind, when he is face to face on page 335, why is it still an imperfect fruit and a partial prize? Because even if the boon is granted, it will take long to unfold. Man is not ready. So on page 335, when Aswapati is asking for this boon, 335, O son of strength who climbst creation speaks. Aswapati is the lord of tapasya, force. The tapasya which one gathers, the power that one gathers through tapasya, which helps one to rise from the mortal to immortal planes. Ashwa. So it's force, power. When the Vedic rishis aspired for cow, go is not cow. I mean, it's also cow, but it is light. And Ashwa is force. Even in physics, we use the word horsepower. So it's not something, that they were doing something unusual. We use these symbolic terms. As beautiful as the moon. It's as glorious as the sun, as austere as the hills. So the rishis were using this language. No soul is thy companion in the light. Alone thou standest at the eternal doors. What thou hast won is thine, but ask no more. You, by your tapasya, qualify for this supramental state. Yesterday, we are hearing this beautiful presentation. The rishis who knew that there is the supramental state, you can qualify for it. Don't ask it for earth. Why? What is the problem? O spirit, aspiring in an ignorant frame. Matter is ignorant. It cannot bear it. O voice arisen from the inconscient's world, how shall thou speak for men whose hearts are dumb? Make purblind earth the soul's seer vision's home. I spoke yesterday about Aurobindo's compassion. This is compassion. He still speaks for earth and men. Are we ready? In 70, the mother gave this message. Are you ready? The world of truth which is descending, which has descended. Are you ready? It is the hour of God. Are you ready? She's asking this question again and again. We are not ready. We want cheap stuff. We want something which, 3 days course in Nirvana or 7-day crash course into heaven to pay some money and get initiated and be ensured of a seat in heaven. This is not where, supramental truth, transformation of earth. We are interested in our own hundis. And something of it we partake to God. That's not, where is man ready for this endeavor? So it says, you are aspiring. Look, you are alone. Nobody is around you. Nobody has this aspiration. You are alone in this world. Or lighten the burden of the senseless globe. I am the mystery beyond reach of mind. I am the goal of the travail of the sons. My fire and sweetness are the cause of life. But too immense my danger and my joy. He says, yes, you have come to the right place. But man is not ready. He doesn't want it. When you go back, he will say, please, can I get a good job? You are a great seer. You are a yogi. Maybe you can make sure my son will get a seat in Harvard. He says, man will ask you these things. He doesn't want what you are asking for. This thing that was alone thou standest at the eternal doors. This is the predicament and fate of all who aspire like this. And still one must. How Aurobindo and the mother bore with all of us and continue to bear. It's really amazing. Only compassion and love can do it. There's a story of Guru Nanak that, somebody tells him that you have many disciples, isn't it? He says, you're really kidding. He says, no, really, I mean it. See how many disciples you have. He says, okay, let's test it. So he declares that tomorrow I am going on an errand into the mountains. Who will come? Everybody is very happy. Gurudev is coming. Some have prepared food and lunch and everything for Gurudev and they are going. Now after a while they say, where is he going? Mountains are, it's climbing up and doesn't seem to rest. So after a while they tell him, Guruji, please, won't you like to take some lunch? No, I am going. So after a while, half of them, drop out. Then as he is going, he is neither shaving nor doing anything. He becomes more and more fierce looking. They say he's gone crazy. They drop off. At the end, only one fellow who had asked him this question remains with him. So Guru turns him and says, do you know how many followers I have? He says, I know it. I have the answer. So let us not be carried away by, numbers. Aurobindo said that. So he is asked, speak not my secret name to hostile time. Man is too weak to bear the infinite's weight. We are not ready. The supermind is ready. God is ready to give us. Question is not that now there is delay from his side. Now we have to ask this question. The thing has been reversed. Am I ready to receive what he's going to give? That's the big problem. And that's why I said the yoga process in integral yoga has been changed. Normally we used to do yoga to arrive at the borders of the divine consciousness, feel some touch. It is here now. But are we ready? We still don't feel the hunger for that. We are satisfied with small little hungers and small little gains. So we are not ready. This is the problem. Truth born too soon might break the imperfect earth. So this is the passage which continues, and he says, ask not the imperfect fruit, the partial prize. The fruit is not yet ready. I can give you. But then it's, it won't taste like this. Man will get confused. And Mother and Aurobindo had to imagine they still asked for it and got it for them, for us. And they've kept it safe. Now the fruit is getting fully ready. Till man is ready, it will not be just given into his hands because he'll break down. This is their compassion and love. For those who ask, where is supermind, where is supermind? We are not ready even for the mind. Forget about supermind. Let us first become, at least ready for the little joy, little love and little sorrow, and we start breaking down. What about that glory? And then these 4 marvelous lines. Above blind fate and the antagonist powers, moveless there stands a high unchanging will. To its omnipotence, leave thy work's result. All things shall change in God's transfiguring hour. So it says, assures, yes, it will come down, but in its own time. Maybe 1,000,000 years. Because for that consciousness, 1,000,000 years is the twinkling of an eye. Why are you in a hurry? Let mankind go through more pralayas, more world wars, more political upheavals. Then they will realize that the solution does not lie there. But this time, Aswapati insists. This is our Aswapati. The modern Aswapati. The forerunner of the human race. This is Aurobindo. So we see this little change coming in the story. And he says, on the same page, but Aswapati's heart replied to her, a cry amid the silence of the vast. How shall I rest content with mortal days and the dull measure of terrestrial things? I, who have seen behind the cosmic mask the glory and the beauty of thy face. He says, I have seen it. But there is something else also I have seen, which I must tell you, because he is the forerunner of the race. He has been throughout present in the history of Earth's evolution. Mother said, whenever and wherever there was the possibility of manifesting a ray, I have been there. Many names and forms, the recent ones, the most recent one, Mother as Catherine, then sometimes simultaneously as 4 beings, Joan of Arc being, so all this had not happened during the time of Aswapati. There was no Mahabharata, no First World War, no Second World War, no mass destructions, no Hitlers, Mussolini. Life was still okay. So now he has seen, because that time he was given the boon and they were progeny and they were doing a good job, but now he has seen a lot more. So he says, hard is the doom to which thou bindest thy sons. How long shall our spirits battle with the night and bear defeat and the brute yoke of death? We who are vessels of a deathless foes and builders of the Godhead of the race. So this time he insists. He says, no. You see, how many centuries, millenniums have passed. And yet, look at what has been happening. I am having the same aspiration, but Aswapati's age was different. It's still, Satyug. Things are fine, relatively fine. But look what has been happening. How long will it go on? And this continues. This is a marvelous passage. Last line on this page. Only we hear the feet of passing gods. So, he insists, and this ends with, on page 345. Now see, Aswapati has done a tapasya to the sun god. Surya Savitri, who is the guardian of the law of truth. That's why the sage Yagnvalk aspires. He says, I know this law of darkness. I am well conversant with this. But I want the law of truth. Hiranmayena patrena satyasya pihitam mukham tattvam pushanna pavranu satya dharmaye drishtaye. This law I know what happens here. But what is the law of truth? That I want to know. So, along similar lines, ringing with that voice of the ancient seers, we have this line, O truth, defended in thy secret sun, voice of our mighty musings in shut heavens. O truth, defended in thy secret sun. Look at this line. Hiranmayena patrena satyasya pihitam mukham. Absolutely, it would be in English, the same line, but with so much more power in it. Voice of our mighty musings in shut heavens. Thankfully in English language. Otherwise, we have to learn all the intonations. A very deep study. It's not easy, but at least English we are more or less conversant with. So the mantra is now given to us in a language which we can easily relate with and upgraded. On things withdrawn within her luminous depths, O wisdom's splendor, mother of the universe, linger not long with thy transmuting hand, pressed vainly on one golden bar of time. Now he is asking the law of truth not just for himself. He is asking for the earth. And look at these lines. As if time dare not open its heart to God. So he is saying, what do you mean? You can make it ready. It's not ready. But yes, you can make it ready. O radiant fountain of the world's delight, world free and unattainable above. Who can reach thee? Thou art the mystery of mysteries, the glory of glories. The most beautiful, the beauty that cannot ever be captured in any form or given a name. So he is calling her mystery, O bliss, whoever dwellest deep hid within, while men seek the outside and never find. People ask, what is practical in Savitri? This is one of the practical lines in Savitri. How in simple 2 lines, Aurobindo gives us the deep secret. If we can just practice these 2 lines, life will be changed. Look at it. O bliss, whoever dwellest deep hid within, while men seek the outside and never find. How simple. What is complicated about Savitri? He's showing us the mirror and telling us, don't seek it outside, it's there inside you. The Divine Mother is inside you. The radiant fountain of the world's delight is inside you. So why don't you find it's so practical and so simple? All that we do has to do is pick up from here and put it there. Pick up from here and put it here. Mystery and muse with hieratic tongue, incarnate the white passion of thy force. Mission to earth, some living form of thee. One moment, fill with thy eternity. Let thy infinity in one body live. All knowledge wrap one mind in seas of light. All love throb single in one human heart. Immortal, treading the earth with mortal feet, all heaven's beauty crowd in earthly limbs. He's asking for the progeny, for her coming. Now this progeny, very often we see rishis praying for offspring. And this is the most absurd interpretation. Oh, after all, they were like ordinary people praying for offspring. In the ancient wisdom, offspring was not meant for satisfaction of one's personal desire. It was called santan, extension of consciousness. This is a work which I may leave unfinished, like a wonderful center, which somebody has to do and take it on forward. That is the progeny. We are Mother and Aurobindo's progeny in that sense. It's a work which has to be continued. We have to become builders and holders of that tremendous power and love which they have brought to earth. Not that we can do it, but at least receive it, open to it and let it do. So this is the meaning of progeny. So he is asking for her that come and, all beauty, all knowledge, all love, omnipotence, girdle with the power of God, movements and moments of a mortal will, pack with the eternal might, one human hour. And with one gesture change all future time. Let a great word be spoken from the heights. And one great act unlock the doors of fate. If this is not mantra, I don't know what is mantra. Look at the power of these words. Just to read these lines and meditate in that sound, how powerful it is. Let a great word be spoken from the heights, and one great act unlock the doors of fate. See now what happens with the mantra. We read about the mantra and how it creates. Now what we do when we read Savitri? The next few lines will show us. Now Savitri, Aswapati has aspired. Now what happens? His prayer sank down in the resisting night, oppressed by the 1,000 forces that deny. Ordinarily, he would aspire and we will never be able to connect with that aspiration. When we read Savitri, it is like a vehicle, a fire where we join in our aspiration. It's like a little, we have a small chinna flame. It's all right, small little flame. But they have now created an inferno, not just Fire, but of course inferno, not the wild inferno, but inferno which can light up the whole world. Now what do we do when we read Savitri? This little flame joins with the raging fire, the tremendous fire. So what happens as a result? It's not that the fire becomes greater. It will be foolish to think that, we will do Mother and Sri Aurobindo's work. But our own fire will definitely rage higher and become vaster. So when we read Savitri, very simply, by the act of reading, we join with the consciousness of Sri Aurobindo. We join with the aspiration of Sri Aurobindo. Otherwise, who would aspire? Imagine, aspiring, oh, Divine Mother, come. It will be even dangerous to start with. But when we read these lines, we end up joining this aspiration. Within us, aspiration will leap forth. I am giving just one of the many other spiritual, I should not use the word benefit, it sounds very businessman-like. But one of the big advantages, spiritual advantage maybe, of reading Savitri. So, the Divine Mother grants the boon. On the next page, she says, "O strong forerunner, I have heard thy cry." Now you see, Sri Aurobindo's yoga and tapasya up to a certain point, he is experiencing the supermind and beyond. But again the same impasse comes. How to bring it down to earth, how to give it to others. And then a time comes when the mother comes and joins him. When somebody asked Sri Aurobindo that, so-and-so said you are sitting on the path, he said that obviously that person does not know. I may have been told to be sitting on the path before 1914, before the mother's coming. But after our coming, things which would have taken long were suddenly done for him. Sri Aurobindo speaks about, he acknowledges that. He says, without the mother's coming, I would have been able to help myself, but not others. That's why we see that, before that, they were disciples. They were not called disciples, they were like friends. They were chit-chatting, they were enjoying life, playing football. Of course, even now, mother did not say, don't play football or don't. They were, having that kind of time, bohemian lifestyle. And they were fine. Sri Aurobindo is doing some tapasya and we have to just make sure that, the British government or the French government doesn't create problems. That's all they understood. They didn't even know how to sit before Sri Aurobindo. And when the mother comes, they would all sit together on a chair as if they're equal, and Sri Aurobindo would treat them like equal. Now, just as in Gita, once Arjuna has to be shown who Krishna is, and then he says, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I've been just putting my arms around you and treating you as my equal. You are the Lord of the worlds. So, here also the mother comes and teaches the disciples how? By her own action. She sat before him on the floor. Here is the Lord. She is the Divine Mother. But she has to teach us. She could have very well said, well, I am the Divine Mother. I would just sit straight away by your side. No, because this is a part to train us, to make us ready. So she starts by this act, and people are so foolish that they end up saying, Mother is a disciple of Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo himself said, she is not a disciple, she is a spiritual collaborator. She has had the same realizations as myself before coming here. In fact, he says, she entered the supermind through the front gate, whereas he goes through the back door. Back door is, he wants power for India's freedom. And it starts through that. But the mother, if you read through right from the beginning, she's aspiring right in the prayers and meditation before that, the world. So she's asking that power to come down for the world. She is right. She says front door. So it's enough if you open to the mother. When somebody said, well, I believe that if I open to you, it means I automatically open to the mother, and if I open to the mother, I automatically open to you. Sri Aurobindo says the second proposition is correct. Not necessarily the first one. He says, let her. We must open to her and she will do everything. So he asks her. And then when she comes, things begin to change. Eventually she has to carry on the yoga of transformation. Of course, we know the story. She came, and when she came, she describes that we were together. And she has a thought within her that is the world ready? Because they have been doing this since Aswapati or even before. Is the world ready? So Sri Aurobindo replies again within that, well, if we wait for the world to be ready, it will never be ready. Because they have waited for so long. So many lives, so many names and forms. We have to make the world ready. And she says, okay, done. It is her work to make us ready. So here comes, she says, okay, I'll come down. And look, this law of death and the law of truth. So many people, now again, in ancient tradition, Yama is regarded as Dharma Raja, as a god. When Mother was asked this question, he says, well, it is in man's consciousness that he has become a god. Now, you wonder that who is right. Obviously, of course, Mother is right for those of us. But look the deep truth within it. There is a period of evolution when man has to labor under the law of death and just accept whatever it is, because it has to prepare. It prepares him. But then a time comes when man is ready. No more. He doesn't need the law of death, but he is ready for the law of truth. Satya Dharma. Just as the seed for a long time has to labor under the law of darkness till it reaches the surface. When it comes, then he is ready directly for the sun. So also for a long time we are children of division, Diti. So we are Daityas, we divide. Everything we like to divide. This is the nature of man, Asura by birth. But by spiritual conversion he becomes a god. But when we surrender, after a time, we pop out. And then Mother says, okay, Diti, sister, you have done, this from the Vedas, you have done a good job. Now, fine, this is mine. I'll take care. Or the Divine Mother telling death, now stay away, stay aside. Your job is over. Now this child is mine. I'll take care. And Mother has said this in so many words, that those who die, no more. This was one of her work. She says that those who die, they do not go now to, those who have opened to Mother and Sri Aurobindo, but they come straight to Sri Aurobindo. They do not go to the domain of death. She even created a safe passage, not only for those who have faith, but for anybody who has faith of any kind in the divine, will no more have to go through that, vital passage for which Shraddha is done and, there is so much pain and suffering. She has created a safe passage. Okay, you will go through this. All that we need is just a little faith in the divine. And if we have faith in Mother and Sri Aurobindo, then no more death. We go straight to Sri Aurobindo where we rest, we remain, we are happy. And I can tell you there are plenty of examples. I'm not getting into that, things which I know myself. Somebody who has, who died and left the body, and after, I saw the person for some time, and then suddenly the person comes in one of my dreams, and I say, I don't say, but I'm thinking that, this person is dead. So he says, oh, you really think I'm dead? Okay, come, and touches me, gives me some nice, those big berries which are not found in India. So I taste it and it's so nice, and I say, no, actually I don't think like this. What to say? And then I wake up. The next day somebody comes all the way from New Zealand, Chuni Bhai, and he brings me those berries, and I said, my God, I'm having goosebumps because of course, I don't know whether he believed or not, but he said, I'll bring you these berries every time. I said, no, please. This is unique. Every time will not carry the same thing. It's not about the berries, but about a most concrete way that, it is coming that well. That lady, she's with Mother and Sri Aurobindo. So I'm speaking of one experience among many, and this is not about me and my experience. It's about a truth which is happening, and this is one of the ways, it gets confirmed. And Mother herself said. So, look at the next line. O strong forerunner, I have heard thy cry. One shall descend and break the iron law. Iron law is the law of death. Unheeding, uncaring, even the most beautiful love, the moment it enters the mortal breath, it gets spoilt by the breath of death. See, when people initially fall in love, we have such marvelous lines that as when a universe takes birth, they really say forever and ever for, not just 7 lives, but I love you forever. Yes, we are tied forever. After 1 year, this, instead of running around the trees and the fire, they are running around the courts. It's sad. It's not a happy thing to happen. It's part of the journey, it's understandable, and it will happen till ultimately we find the truth law. But it's in a sense, it should not be. Why should love die? Why should it change into hate? Was that true or is this true? So mother says these questions you must raise to yourself every day. She advises this to all the youngsters. That raise these questions to your every day. Why there is love if only to turn into hate? Why there is life if only to end in death? These questions will open a door. So the iron law of death is bound to go away. Change nature's doom by the lone spirit's power. Nature's doom. Any beautiful thing which comes here, alas, only for a day. A day compared to, we had Atlantis, we have Trojan Empire, Troy. We had, of course, in India, Dwarka. It has to be drowned back into the sea. It's a pity. Man is not ready. Krishna knew that if I leave Dwarka as it is, they will just take all the pearls. Like in India, they started the bullet train and first day, all the equipment, many people stole. It's a pity. So they had to, iron law. Henceforth you do it. That's why the iron law is there. So now there are new laws that if you do it, because all CCTVs are there, you will be slapped this fine. It's a sad thing. It shouldn't be needed. No, it should be like, okay, it's the joy of it. First time, of course, it happens. Don't worry. A lot of good things will come. So that's how humanity advances. It's so, says somebody will come and change nature's doom. What is the doom? Rama comes, Krishna comes, Christ comes, Buddha comes. Only for a while. And then we have followers and followers and followers. And then we have not followers, but religion and cults fighting with each other, religions fighting with each other. Then we have war and warring sects. This is nature's doom. In the name of the great ones. And toward the end, these 4 lines. Toward the end of this passage. A seed shall be sown in death's tremendous hour. Aurobindo, I imagine, I think something like this did happen. Aurobindo is asking for this boon, carrying on the yoga of Aswapati into this life. And he is being told, all right, I'll come and the supermind will descend. But when? In death's tremendous hour. God does not come with Baja Gaja and big posters, Swamiji 108 times. Please be careful of all such things. When there is a lot of advertisement, be wary of it. It's time that we understand that the divine doesn't need to advertise. Does the sun come out saying, I am the sun, I am the sun? It just gently rises from the eastern horizon. If we are awake, we see it. If we are not awake, so it is. It just comes. Mother and Aurobindo, they never wanted propaganda or anything like that. That is the sign of their divinity. If they had million of followers and million of propagandists and evangelists, then I would have said, oh my God, there is something amiss. But it's a sign. Why does the divine need it? He knows what he is doing. So he is told death's tremendous hour. So what happens soon thereafter? The First World War and the Second World War. And then the supramental descent. Look at it. Manifestation. First the descent, 1950, and the manifestation, 56. So he is told, death's tremendous hour. All the world forces will rage against you. And Aurobindo said that, all the vital forces descended upon earth to prevent the coming down of the supermind which was coming down. So there was chaos all over. And the mother, she worked during the war, and she says that it has made paradoxically mankind more receptive. This is a whole essay on war. She says now they have become receptive after that Ghor Mahasangram, Mahavinash, more than maybe 10 Mahabharatas. First World War and the Second. And First World War, he is writing the Arya. Second World War, even more terrible. he is gifting to us Savitri. Death's tremendous hour. A branch of heaven transplant to human soil. It will come and take roots upon earth. Nature shall overleap her mortal step. Fate shall be changed by an unchanging will. Thus ends the first part, the yoga of Aswapati. We'll continue next 2:30. Any questions? Yes, please. Yes, that's a very beautiful thing to say. Yes. We are all portions of the Lord, Satyavan, who is here struggling with ignorance. Absolutely true. And we must open to her. What is yoga of Satyavan? There are several yogas in Savitri. We'll talk about the characters in the next session and then connect with the next yoga. So, we are all Satyavan, struggling in ignorance and death. Now you see, Aswapati does a yoga, Savitri does a yoga, even death is engaged in a yoga, but paradoxically not doing. This dialogue between Savitri and death in the original story and the debate between Savitri and death in this story both point to the same truth. That death is being restored to its original truth. So it's a conversion of death. So originally Savitri tells death, I am following my law. In the original story. Then she says, I am your equal. So first she is under the law. Then she says, I am your equal. I am a friend. Then she points to death. You are not following the law that you have. So you see, in the original story, it's indicated in a symbolic way. Here, Savitri takes death through a journey. It's a yoga of death himself. Death doesn't know it. That through this debate, she is the Mahamaya. She could have just vanished him in one blow. Told death, step aside, get lost. She doesn't do it. And there is a reason. It's not just about bringing Satyavan back. Death also must change. He must understand what's happening in earth. So she carries him through many interchanges until death says, I think you have the knowledge. But do you have the power? And then she says, yes, you want to see my power? And we have that wonderful, apocalypse. But we'll talk about that later. But just 3 lines and then probably we can close. Of course, he has already, Narad Bhai has read those lines, but I love it. So this, since you mentioned about, Satyavan. Yes, we are all Satyavan. And there is a yoga given to us. And we must do it. It's the most simple yoga. Yes. What is the yoga we have to do? What kind of meditation? What kind of, incantations? What is the yoga given to Satyavan? We are all Satyavan, as you rightly said. So we have to say, and this incidentally is a mystic marriage. And this is the symbol behind Krishna and the gopis, the many marriages. I think in Christianity also there is something like marriage with Christ. So there is a mystic marriage between the human soul and the divine incarnate. Now this is very interesting. So what is this mystic marriage? Satyavan asking Savitri. What does he ask? What we should ask for Divine Mother? If our time-vexed affections thou canst feel. I cannot love you divinely. I have time-vexed affections, full of care, anxieties. Even if I want to do your work, I think I am doing your work. So I am full of, will it happen? Won't it happen? So, time-vexed affections. It's natural to man. She says, if you can feel. Earth's ease of simple things can satisfy. I don't have a palace to offer. But I have a simple hut, a hermitage. Will you come there? That's enough. The divine doesn't need something big. He is satisfied to come into the hut of the most ordinary person, provided he can make the surrender. If thy glance can dwell content on earthly soil, Mother, what can I offer to you? I don't have riches and ornaments and jewels and pearls and good food and all this, but I can offer you something made in my earthen pot. Will you take it? And this celestial summary of delight, thy golden body, dally with fatigue. I'm going to give you a tough time, I know it. Probably you may feel like giving up on me. Dally with fatigue. So he says all these things. Oppressing with its grace our terrain, while the frail, sweet, passing taste of earthly food delays thee, and the torrent sleeping wine, earthly food. Every day what I prepare, mother, like Shabri of old, or Vidur, I will give you. I cannot prepare very good things. Maybe it may have less salt or something. Will you accept it? Then he says, descend. Let thy journey cease. Come down to us. All that we need to say is this. Mother, this is what I am, as I am. I offer myself to you. What do I want? I can only give whatever I am, that's it. But will you come? Descend. Let thy journey cease. This is the yogas that Satyavan has to engage in. At the end also, he further ratifies this yoga, 2-3 lines more. When he is asked, everything has changed, and he is asked, what is this marvel, miracle in your life? What yoga you have done? How do you do yoga? I remember in Bangalore, every day morning, we used to go for the center, 5:30 to clean it and everything. Because, center is the living hearth of God. It is not just a place. It's a fire. And it cannot be managed by servants. So, we used to go every day. Sun, rain, anything. Every day morning 5:30 we would leave our kid at home, just a year old, and go every day. So one day with torrential rain, I was going up the lift, and one of my friends means he was staying in the same building, Air Force officer, fellow officer. He said, oh, I see you go every day. Where do you go? I said, okay, to Aurobindo yoga. Oh, wow. In the lift he's asking, so you do yoga there? I said, I don't know what to say. I said, yeah. Oh, what kind of what? They teach some nice asana. Who is the teacher? So by then the lift, it came, and I said, well, I can't answer all these questions. I'll talk about it later. This is our idea of yoga. That if every day morning he goes and he must be doing some Sirsasana and, this asana and that asana. He doesn't know we do Savasana. What is Savasana? Mother, you work in us. This is exactly what Satyavan says. See, when he's asked that, why all this change has happened inside you? So he says, that lay all on her. She is the cause of all. This is the yoga. But Satyavan replied with smiling lips. If somebody asks what is the yoga of Mother and Aurobindo, you would say the same thing. Anybody who has lived long enough and survived through the ups and downs of the yoga. It's a delight, after all, journey is a journey. So he will say, lay all on her. She is the cause of all. Lay all on her. She is the cause of all. With her enchantments, she has twined me round. We don't do the yoga. She holds us. She does the yoga. Yoga is union. Divine unites. And Aurobindo says, why it became easy after Mother? Because Mother unites with our consciousness. Imagine, it's reversed. We are supposed to unite. But here it's the other way around. Mother, when she accepts a person into this path, she unites herself with us and does the yoga. So he says, with her enchantments, she has twined me round. What I can do? She has caught me. Long back when people used to ask in Aurobindo ashram, how is the initiation done? So this is an old saying of Amrita. And people would say, oh, initiation in the ashram, they catch your choti. Literally it happened with him. He had a choti, Tamil Brahmin. And Aurobindo one day got it chopped off. He says, they catch the choti. So, she has entwined me round. There is a truth in it. Behold, at noon, leaving this house of clay, I wandered in far off eternities. Yet still a captive in her golden hands. Even when we go through the grim darkness of death, we are still a captive in her golden hands. She doesn't allow us. We have to go through that passage. As I said, this was the day when Satyavan must die. Shishyasteham masadhimam, go through the battle. But she is holding us captive. I tread your still little hillock called green earth, and in the moments of your transient sun, live glad among the busy works of man. So this is the yoga of Satyavan, the simplest yoga. Savitri and Aswapati have done the real difficult yoga. And of course, the death part is a different yoga. So we'll stop here and continue next session.